Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending our last weekly webinar. We are super excited to introduce a portion of the incoming 2020 Ram Brown Scholars class. My name is Sam Alamayo. I'm a 2004 Ram Brown Scholar and a Board of Trustee. I'm here with my co-host and fellow board trustee, Meredith Eggers. Meredith.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We thought it would be fun to meet some of this year's freshmen in a very different year that doesn't look like anything anyone can remember from any time in the past. And some folks had class or had commitments, but these guys were kind enough to find some time in their day to join us, and they're going to introduce themselves, and maybe we can ask them a few questions, and we'll go from there. So back to you, Sam.
Absolutely. So I'm going to follow whoever is, I know kind of the structure might be different for other people where you're looking at it. So whoever is on my list, I'll start calling. Janelle, please go ahead, start us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janelle Baker. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I attended the Townview School of Science and Engineering for high school. Now I go to Stanford University and I'm doing remote learning from home. My intended major right now is material science and engineering. So I would love mentors in material science and bioengineering.
Wonderful. John?
Hi, my name is John Hatcher. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area and I'm currently attending Harvard at the moment, and I am on campus in Cambridge. I attended Marian Catholic High School in Chicago Heights, Illinois, and I am thinking about concentrating in either government or economics or some combination of the two. Currently still trying to figure that out. But yeah, here I am, and I'm really excited to start my educational journey.
Wonderful. Journey?
Hello, my name is Journey Washington High. I live in Navarre, Florida. I went to Fort Walton Beach High School, and I will be attending eventually Stanford University, hopefully on campus eventually. But right now we're in remote learning from home. And right now I'm wanting to study somewhere in engineering, maybe product design, but we'll figure that out. So I'd love to have a mentor to sort of show the difference from how you get an idea to a product and out in the industry. And that'd be really cool to me. And thank you for this experience.
Awesome. Brooke?
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Solomon. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and I graduated from Cass Technical High School. And I currently attend Howard University studying health sciences on a pre-med track. Although I'm not on campus this year, I'm still at home. But thank you for all the support, and I love this community.
Awesome. Travis?
Hi everyone, my name is Travis Johnson. I am from Lynchburg, South Carolina. I graduated from Crestwood High School in Sumter, South Carolina. Right now I am studying at Harvard University. I'm currently in Cambridge, and I intend to pursue a concentration in government. And I'd just like to thank you all for everything that you do, and we really appreciate it.
Miriam?
Hey y'all. My name is Mariam, and I'm a first year at Mount Holyoke College. I'm a prospective international relations and Africana studies major. And I went to high school in Iowa City, Iowa, but I currently live in Baltimore County, Maryland. I have a background in racial justice and income equity. So income equity advocacy, yes. So I would love mentors that are interested in community organizing or studying Blackness in an academic space. Yes, DMV people, hello.
DMV. Antavion?
Hey y'all, my name is Antavion Moore. I'm from Ringgold, Louisiana. I attended Ringgold High School, which is also in Ringgold. I'm here at LSU is where I'm doing undergraduate, and I'm majoring in biological engineering. I'm just excited to be a Ron Brown Scholar and thankful to be a part of this family.
Miles?
Hi, my name is Miles Noel. I live in Norfolk, Virginia. I recently graduated from Norview High School in Norfolk, Virginia, and I am attending MIT this fall. I'm going to be here at home for the fall, and I'm thinking of studying chemistry and physics. So yeah, and just I'm glad to be here. Thank you for everything you've done for us.
Chris?
Yeah, hi. I'm Christopher Wallen. I'm from South Florida. I recently graduated from Coral Glades High School in Coral Springs, Florida. And right now I'm attending Emory University in Atlanta, and I plan to major in political science and history. I just want to say thank you guys for being such a great community.
Sam?
I'm Samuel Mumford. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm attending the University of Pennsylvania. I plan on majoring, double concentrating in business analytics and finance, and I'm studying from home right now. We closed down for the semester.
Wonderful. I mean, we got great DMV representation. That's one, guys, congratulations. I know we don't have everybody on the list, and we'll be sharing everybody's name. But yeah, let's get it started. Merida's.
All right.
Any comments
I'll
you
jump
want to
right in
have?
there.
I'll ask a couple of questions.
Yeah. So just again, thanks you guys for making the time today. And it's really fun for, I think some of you have attended some of the salons and some of you have not, but they are made up of a concentration of undergraduates like you guys. You're now officially undergraduates, and our alumni, which is, as you know, a pretty powerful group of folks. And increasingly, as we've had some of these hard conversations over the course of this summer, we've had a group of folks who have joined us because they didn't know what the Ron Brown Scholarship Program was, but they wanted to get more involved in conversations about racial justice. And so there's all sorts of folks on this call today. So if each of you had the chance to tell any of those populations one thing, what would you like to tell them? And you don't all have to answer, but if anybody's got anything good to share, maybe something that you learned this summer or something that has had an impact on you this summer.
Yeah, unmute yourself and go.
Janelle, why don't you start? Sorry, you're the first one in my screen at the top.
Okay, so I guess one thing that I've learned this summer with like all the protests and all of the outrage that's been going on in terms of like Black Lives Matter is that it's not enough to just be angry at like something that you see, but you have to like dedicate yourself to a lifelong journey of like work and anti-racism and advocacy work. Like it's not something that you can just, like you have to have a long-term motivation. That's what I've learned.
I like that. I think that's awesome. Anybody have anything else they want to add? I won't cold call anybody anymore, I promise.
Yeah, I can bounce off of that. I've learned and seen a lot that, for one, whenever you want to communicate either a different point of view or even if it's just your point of view and it might be the same, saying it aggressively just to try and give it a little punch doesn't always work because it just seems like you're yelling at a person. If you want to communicate different ideas and different perspectives, it's better to have a full-on discussion. And whenever you're having a discussion about what is currently going on, I've also learned that from my perspective, I don't always have to be the educator. I don't have to pretend that I'm the representative of all Black people or all minorities or all women. You have to, if you want to know more, you can send them on a path to figure out where to find more of this information, how to get their own perspective on it without having to be that representative person.
Yeah.
And to add to what Journey just said, one thing that I've definitely internalized over the last summer was that I'm allowed to prioritize myself. That's something that I've struggled with a lot in the past. I sometimes forget to take care of myself, and I spread myself way too thin in the pursuit of trying to help other people. So right at the beginning of quarantine, I remember I was struggling in terms of mental health. I was not leaving my house at all. I did not go outside for like more than 30 days. maybe to throw away the trash and like immediately recede back into the basement and my blankets. So I learned that sometimes you have to shut everything else out. You have to shut all of the outside stressors out, and you have to find ways to invest in yourself, whether that looks like blocking out time to walk outside and take in some sunlight, or maybe pulling out a book if you haven't done that for a while, eating your favorite dessert, whatever self-care looks like for you, just make time for it, prioritize it.
Yeah. And boy, if you guys can learn that your freshman year of college, you are so far ahead of the game.
Yep. You're set for life if you apply that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess just to riff off that, I live, or I guess I used to live like 10 minutes from Marjory Stoneman Douglas, where the shooting occurred. So just from experiences in that from tragedy can come change, and the importance of like a collective voice, and that it might not always seem possible, but with people around you to make a change and go out and do something, it is possible.
Yes. And adding on to what Chris said, you know, concerning the racial injustice we've seen around the country, I guess I've really noticed and taken to heart the statement, you know, that we have to be the change you want to be in the world. And even as young people, I guess it did my heart good to look on the news and see so many young people active in the riots, you know, people that look just like me. And it actually reminded me of, you know, studying about the Civil Rights movement, and how it really took off when young people stopped going to school and they made up their mind that they were going to march for the things they believed in. We really have this opportunity right now ourselves, you know, especially as part of this Ron Brown program, to really stand up for that. And so I really want to once again thank everyone that supports that, because you're giving us, young people, the opportunity to show the world that we are capable.
But there's no question that y'all are capable. I mean, I say this all the time, and I think it's so important whenever any industry says, well, you know, we'd like to hire more Black and brown people. We just don't have the talent. Y'all look around. There's not a pipeline problem. The Ron Brown program alone shows that there's not a pipeline problem. And that's been true for a really long time. And I don't make light of it at all, but that's the reality. Is y'all have so much talent, and you're going to do some really amazing things with it. Just really cool.
So just to add to like how the summer has been so impactful to me, I think I've learned like a combination of what everyone was talking about, both in like protest, but also taking care of myself. So this past summer, I did this one program called the Harvard Spark Public Service Program, where all the participants are supposed to design their own public service, either project or work as an intern for a company. And so I designed a public service project called Avenues to Activism, where basically I invited people within like various communities that I was a part of to basically engage with learning how to speak out and use their voice for change, and use it proactively within like the realm of being in a global pandemic, where, you know, you might be afraid to like go out and like protest on the street, you know, there are ways to use your voice in other ways. And so what the program did was really give the participants, who are really like, most of them who were Black, give them a platform to use their voice to talk about things that were really important to them, and to talk about social issues in light of Black Lives Matter, and in light of being an ally to other issues as well. So that was really powerful for me, because it showed the power of uplifting voices, and how there are so many people who look like us, who have a lot to say, who really, really want to change the world, but don't necessarily have the means to go about doing it or have the platform to do it. So I was really happy to provide them with that experience. And it was actually really cool, because I ended up like recording their presentations at the end, and I put them in like a YouTube video, and I'd be happy to put the link to the YouTube video in the chat. So yay.
Please do that. That would be awesome.
Another thing that I learned this summer is saying no to stuff. Maybe I said no a little too many times, but it was a really rough learning curve for me with Zooming especially. There's definitely this new language that we're using, right? Zoomed out, where I would literally have back-to-back Zooms from the time that I woke up in the morning until really late at night. And I feel like, especially during this time where everything is digital, other people are feeling super entitled to your time. They're like, wow, I see that little green icon. I know you're on the internet. Why aren't you in my Zoom? And you're allowed to say no to things. Just because an opportunity presents itself to you doesn't mean you have to take advantage of it. And just because your time isn't scheduled doesn't mean it's not yours to decide what to do with.
I think something that I really learned this summer is that it's really important to hold people accountable. Whether that's your friends, politicians, corporations. I think with so many things happening this summer, and a lot of people just simply performed of gestures, but didn't really want to do anything to rectify the situations. So I think it was important for me to, if I see my friend like sitting on the sideline, like tell them your silence is really detrimental to the cause that we're working for. For example, I looked to see like some of my favorite brands to see if they put out statements claiming that Black Lives Matter, because that really means a lot. And like you were saying, John, like if you have a platform, you really should use that platform to speak out against racism. So I was very deliberate and careful and, holding people accountable.
Yeah, and sometimes that's hard to do. I mean, sometimes that puts a burden on you, Travis, to not only when you hold somebody accountable, you're now kind of accountable too. And so that's a big move. Very cool.
Just bounce off of that. One thing that I also learned this summer, I think, was really the importance of like education and knowledge and being informed. Like I remember like going on social media a lot, or just like on the internet, I'd see like a bunch of like misinformation be spread around, and just like totally false claims, and it was really detrimental, like not only to the movement but also like to myself. Like there was times when I just felt sad because like people would say certain things like they would make these claims about the people who died before these protests and stuff like that. And also I really like became more aware of my education in high school and middle school and elementary school, and how what I was taught back then may not necessarily be true. It's like one version of the story. I was talking to a mentor of mine, and here in Virginia, they actually this is like 50 years ago, but around like 1950s, 1960s, they wouldn't call the Civil War the Civil War. They would call it the War of Northern Aggression. And there's like, they would like change kind of like the narrative of the story. So like it would make the South seem better, or they would change the narrative of the story to say that Civil War was not about slavery and stuff like that. And like looking at even in my English classes, I've never really read a book that was by a Black author. Sometimes I'd read Langston Hughes poems and stuff like that, but I never really read uh, a, a Black book, I guess. And so I was sitting down talking to a mentor of mine, and he gave me a book list, and it was The Soul of Black Folks by W.E.B. Du Bois, Miseducation of Negroes by Carter G. Woodson, and I have like The Notes of Native Son right here, The Sword and Shield about Dr. King and Malcolm X. And I think like this summer, I haven't had a lot of time, but I've been trying to like read more of those type of books. Like I've tried reading The Soul of Black Folks throughout the summer. And when I tell you, like, just within the first 5 pages of the books, like I was like, he's like speaking so much truth just within the first 5 pages. And so I think like one thing I really gathered this summer is like the importance of educating yourself, because like we can't have people speaking for us who are misinformed or who do not know the truth. And so I think it's important for our generation especially to educate ourselves so that we could help better the movement.
I really relate with Miles on that one, because like as he said, there was like kind of like when you're younger, you're kind of given information, you can't really choose what you want to learn. But for me, this happened towards, I would say, the ending of high school, around my junior year. I was able to pick electives, and for English, I picked classes like Black Contemporary Voices and Caribbean literature, classes that really focused around Black literature and Black culture. And then there's kind of like, I had like a revelation or like a coming to senses of moment that like, whatever you read might necessarily be the whole story. You kind of have to get multiple perspectives. And those classes that I took really like opened my mind to this.
I really agree with everything that's been said. This has been a summer of a lot of things. So many things have happened. Miriam, I see you. Like I started my summer, or not even the summer, but when COVID hit and like Detroit was put into quarantine, like I helped organize a COVID-19 youth task force, and we delivered care kits to young people across Metro Detroit who were isolated. And then like that progressed into like having to deal with like a lot of the uprisings that were happening and being out on the streets like 24/7, and then coming back home and getting on Zoom calls to do more organizing work. And then it was just like tragedy after tragedy after tragedy that kind of happened. And the thing that I learned about like these past few months is that not only is like self-care revolutionary and we need to like partake in it more than often, but also that it's okay to find joy in all of the bad things that are happening, because so often like we see the state of the world and it's like, how can I be happy when all of this is happening? Like, how can I still go out and celebrate these things? But we have to, because that's life. And I found myself, much like a lot of you guys, like having to like take actual steps to practice self-care, like saying no and doing things that were for me. I think a lot of that showed towards the end when I was getting ready to like finally leave and go to college and like be free. And like Howard sent that email, like, no, actually you're not, you can stay home. And I was just so distraught. I was so distraught, but I still knew that like I had stuff to do, like I had responsibilities, I couldn't just give up. And so I had to find joy in even the bad things that were happening. So I reorganized my room. I set a schedule for myself, not just like a work schedule for classes and stuff, but like a self-care schedule. Like, what was I going to do for myself on these days? And although I've only been in college technically for like a week and 2 days, it's been really, really cool. And I'm like excited to see how I transform, not just through this semester, but the rest of my undergraduate experience, and also how I transform with you guys, because our Zoom call last night was so fun. And we need to do more, because that is now a part of my self-care routine, and you can't deny me that.
Also, speaking of mental health, I think one thing that was really revolutionary for me, just like treating self-care as a tool of liberation, I think was just being honest about the things that were going on, like in my head with other people. At the beginning, when everything like started happening, and where like I would go on social media and like I would sign like so many petitions and constantly trying to like do what I can to like make a difference in this world. But then it got to a point where just being like, when tragedy after tragedy came and I was just constantly surrounded by all this Black death, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And it felt like I was like digging myself into a hole of just sadness. And I think that a lot of my friends and family kind of related, but none of us we were all talking about what was going on, but we weren't talking about how we were feeling. And I think when I first started talking about, I was like, hey, I don't think I'm in a good place. I need to, this is why I have my phone like over here. This is why I'm not talking to anyone. And when I was finally honest, like with my friends and family about what was going on with me, they started to relate. They started to say like, oh, I'm feeling this same way, but none of us had started to talk about that feeling, But once we had started to talk about it together, everything got a little bit more manageable, because I didn't feel like I was, even though I knew I wasn't in this by myself, I knew that I had my family and friends to support me in a specific way. So I think that was really, really helpful for me.
I see a question in the Q&A. Do y'all mind if I read it out loud?
No, go for it.
Go ahead.
It says, what are 1 or 2 challenges that we're facing as first-year students this fall, and what are we finding that we need?
And it's okay to be very specific about what you need right now.
I definitely say a huge challenge, especially first going into it, is trying to get those sort of social groups that you would have whenever you're on campus with other people, even if it's just glancing over to the person, knowing that they're there, being in a classroom, and if a subject seems confusing, being able to look around and see that everyone else is also confused. It's not exactly the same, even though we haven't started classes yet. We're not able to like come together as a 2020 freshman class. And so being able to have opportunities to do that, whether it be on Zoom or pen pals, anything, we're all looking for just a way to really connect to each other and make sure that we can do it well. I know I'm struggling with lighting for simple things, just to make sure that I can communicate well with people, but little things like that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Journey said. I think especially, so before I came into Harvard, a graduate student told me at Harvard or at any university, basically, most of your learning won't actually come from the professor. It'll come from your peers through discussions and conversations. And I just unfortunately think it's so hard to have deep and meaningful conversations over Zoom. And especially like in large classes, it's so hard to feel like your voice is being heard. And I do think that can be a little saddening, but I think it's important for us to utilize the resources that we have available to us. So like I know on campus right now, we can meet with one other person with social distancing in place. And so I've been trying to do that, just trying to connect with new people, because like I said, you learn so much from discussing things with new people. But it is a challenge right now because you want to ensure that you're being safe and following all of the public health guidelines. So it's definitely difficult. And I think all of us can relate to that.
And we have a few people kind of joining us as they were in class earlier. Crystalline, hi, welcome. Can you please introduce your name, where you're from, what college you're going to right now, and if you are at home or on campus, and what you're planning to study, and what you hope to get out of the community as well.
Okay, my name is Crystal and also I'm from Illinois. I'm at Cornell University in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'll be double majoring in chemistry and economics. I hope to get out of this community just like a feeling of belonging, because I don't feel like I've ever had that at any point in my life. And especially when it's surrounding like academia, like I've never had that. So like that's even further from my experiences. So I'm very excited to be surrounded by people who value education the same way I do.
Welcome and congratulations on the scholarship.
So I actually wanted to invert the question about what are some things that I think I need right now. I want to talk about some things that I don't need anymore because of Ron Brown. I don't need a computer. I right now don't need to find a larger support system because I know that support is just a text or a phone call away. I don't need to struggle to ask for help. And I'm very grateful for all of those things, because I think back to like 5 months ago and I didn't have a stable place to live. I didn't have my own computer. I didn't have a reliable Wi-Fi connection. I didn't feel like I was in a position to ask for help. And now I not only have the resources and the tools that I need to be successful, but I feel comfortable enough asking for more things to help me feel even more secure in that position.
That's really awesome. And that's the whole point of the organization. It's the whole point of the Board of Trustees. It's the whole point of you guys having each other and knowing that at any moment, if you can't get what you need from each other, there are folks like Sam and me, and and I think we'll take a chance right now. I'm not sure if he's on the call or not, to just do a shout out to Mike Mallory and his team. It is an incredibly small front office, if you will, back office. It's incredibly well run. It's incredibly, and there's Mike Mallory joining us right on cue. That was brilliant. We just all want to make sure that everyone who's on the call today realizes the incredible amount of work, dedication, and effort that Mr. Mallory puts into everything. that he does, and that the Ron Brown Scholarship Program wouldn't be what it is without him. So
Absolutely.
If anybody else wants to jump on that bandwagon, there's lots and lots of clapping happening in the chat room.
I want to jump right on that as well. And I have been in the organization, my goodness, like this is my 16th year.
You are old.
Ron Brown Scholar from 2004. And every single year since being a scholar, Mr. Mallory has been there to be a mentor, to be a friend, and the entire organization. It really takes a village to make it work. It really takes a major dedication to make an organization like this not just survive, but thrive over the years. And Mr. Mallory have done such a phenomenal job. We want to say thank you to you. And we want to put you on the spot to say a word.
Can you hear me, Sam?
Yes, yes, we could all hear you.
No, you know, the investment we've made, you guys, it's paid off, you know, I can't even tell you how many fold, because it's the energy that you guys are putting back. You know, when we had our first class in 1997, we told them, we said, there are going to be a lot more alumni than there are going to be undergrads. And we're expecting you guys to run with this. We're expecting you all, you own this program, right? So we wanted an old boys network of do-gooders, of people who are just focused on lifting themselves up, but also lifting others. And we've done that. So, and we couldn't do it without alumni like yourself. I mean, we have 489 Ron Brown Scholars now, and the alumni are so active, you know. So without going much further than that, I'll just say that, you know, we're blessed to have chosen the right young people. And when COVID hit last year, you know, we were thinking, well, we can only bring in 10. But, you know, you guys are so talented. We said, we've got to bring in everybody. We got to bring in all 24. You know, we'd raised the money the year before for you guys, and we were not going to miss one of you. So I congratulate you, and I just say thank you. Thank you to Meredith. Thank you to Sam for putting this together. And thank you to everybody who's joining in as well. I mean, we've had some faithful folks following us by the hundreds every week. So thank you so much. And I'll stop here.
And the selection committee, you guys have done such a fantastic job of this scholar group. I mean, we are in great hands going forward, just listening to them. I know everybody, all the other alumni are talking about it. We're just in awe of your maturity and your intelligence, and just know that the community is here for you. Just tap into it. And I'm blown away, and I'm honored to continue to be a part of this organization, but also just seeing you guys, I'm in awe.
Yeah, I think, and I know that Christian, you joined, so we want to give you a chance to introduce yourself. But I think one thing that I will say from my perspective is, as a trustee, this is the kind of organization that you get so much back from because of the relationships I have with a couple of you guys and some of the older undergrads and some of the now alumni. It's an incredible group of people, and every time you think about, wow, I need a mentor, realize that you're giving that mentor a huge gift by sharing yourself with them too. So know that that's always true. We really appreciate all of you guys. Christian, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Hey everybody, my name is Christian Tingle. My apologies for being late. I had an Italian history class that I was attending before this. But I guess a little about myself. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm attending the University of Pennsylvania to study economics.
Well, welcome. Thanks for joining us. You aren't late. Going to class is important, even when it's virtually from your own. Are you on campus or are you at home?
I am at home.
Yeah, no, you're not late at all. So, Sam, do you have a couple more questions you want to pose, or do we want to go back to the question we were talking about, or does anybody on the panel have a question?
Well, we also have a few more of the attendees that have raised their hand, and I want to let them in and ask as well. I'm letting Ambassador Diana Lady Dugan, Mama D, my mentor since 2004. Ambassador Dugan, you're in.
You're muted.
Can't get it right. Anyway, I've been listening off and on to a number of these, and I, of course, want to extend my congratulations to Sam and Meredith, and of course, Michael always. But I guess one of the points that I would like to make, one of the great joys in my life has been mentoring others, and I think Sam can attest to this. And when you end up doing wonderful and fabulous things, in fact, I had a dinner for Katori Hall when she was doing the opening of the Tina Turner musical, and I didn't realize that virtually everyone there in one form or another, or their significant other, were all mentees, and most of them didn't know one another. So that reminds us all. And I have 2 cab drivers and a produce manager in Safeway that are among my mentees, and one who is a multimillionaire in Hong Kong, and others who are doing social work, looking for jobs, teaching me, and people like Sam, who speaks for himself. So I guess what I want to emphasize to you all, just by being a Ron Brown Scholar, you are a role model. You are an inspiration. So I hope you will take that not as a burden, but as a gift that you will share with others. I grew up with practically no mentors except my own family. And, you know, family, you don't realize they mentored you until it's too late to thank them for it. But I just not only beg you to remind everyone that, and whenever, whether it was during Black Lives Matter, and as Mr. Mallory knows, I've been involved for many, many years, and I just took emeritus status, and I'm mostly producing documentary films, but I've failed retirement 5 times. And so I'm quite old, and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But one thing I know is that you learn so much from everyone else if you have your mind open, and you give so much when you open their minds too. And it doesn't have to be teacher versus student or peer color, whatever. And it will be one of the great joys of your life and be one of the gifts that you give to others. So that's my guest lecture for now. And Ron Brown Scholars is the epitome of it. And I cite you all not for your color, but for what you have done and what you continue to do in so many discussions I'm in. So you have a burden and a gift.
Thank you so much, Mama D. Really appreciate it. And I think the one thing I just wanted to kind of add there is, for a lot of the new scholars, and you guys are just fantastic example. For a lot of we were not on your level of like really being able to acknowledge that the most important thing whenever you have challenges or a problem, to voice them, to take care of yourself. And you're doing that in such a beautiful way, articulating that it's a continuous process. But the most important thing, it took me a little longer to learn it, but I was so appreciative once I learned it, is just reaching out. Reach out as early as possible for whatever it is, be mentorship, internships, just conversations. You have access to quite a lot of people. Just put it out there. When you're having a conversation with Mr. Mallory, when and any of the alumni platform that we have, as well as just everybody that is affiliated with the program, the Forbes Friends of Ron Brown, everyone, as Meredith put it beautifully, is there and willing and hoping that you will reach out. So definitely do that. And if you don't, it's just there's no way for a whole lot of people to know what you would need or how they could engage with you.
Yeah. I think that's right. And it doesn't always have to be academic mentoring or professional mentoring. Sometimes it's just, and I know y'all are still at home, but you will be on campuses eventually. Sometimes it's just a good home cooked meal. And I promise you, once y'all are out here at Stanford, I will feed you on a regular basis if you are willing to come to our house. So know that that is the case, and we do stuff like that here too. So my point is the network of support is there for soft stuff and hard stuff, and you should take advantage of it.
I did not have an offer for home cooked meals when I chose Stanford.
Here yet. I would have happily fed you, Sam.
Hmm?
So does
And
anybody
any other kind of questions that you guys want to? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you. Any other questions from you guys that you want to ask each other, or any topics you'd like to address?
Yeah, how are y'all managing your social interactions right now?
I'm actually on campus. I forgot to mention that earlier. And like Cornell, I don't know if you guys have like seen their name plastered in any media recently, but they had like this brilliant idea. We're gonna like get 250 cases, and at that point we're gonna shut down campus. But then Cuomo, which is the governor of New York, he said it was 100 cases in 2 weeks, not 250. So like now we have to try and balance like how many cases do we want to accept before, because we don't want to get to 100 and shut down at that point. We want to like shut down before. We're trying to like determine how many more cases are we okay with taking on campus, and how many we should send like off, or like deny them entrance basically into the university. So I've just been staying in my room to avoid all of that because I do not want to get sick.
For me, like social interactions, they've been really weird. Like I was lucky that I did a bridge program this summer called Interface Edge, and I was able to make a group of friends prior to coming on campus. But like when school started and like we're all in Zoom calls, we go into breakout rooms. Like I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of an antisocial person. Like I don't speak a lot usually, but like it's like we get into this awkward silence for like 20 seconds. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to say something or like ask a question, and then I ask a question, and then it's another awkward 20 silence because like no one knows who's going to speak first. Like you see someone's icon for the mute button comes off, and then you're about to say something, but then you're like, okay, go ahead, but then like they mute again, and it's like it's so awkward. But I think it's like with me like handling these social interactions, I could just I think like my thing is I just handle the awkwardness now and cringe about it later. But it's like the best that we can do at this point. So yeah.
Like Miles, I also did a summer bridge program, and it was like the best decision I ever made. It was the Stanford Summer Engineering Academy, and like the way they did it, it was virtual, and so they put everybody in RA groups, which would be like the people you were living with, and so like interacting with those people through Zoom, but like on a regular basis was a really good way to make friends. So now we all have like groups of friends before we start school.
I had sort of a similar experience. I did a pre-orientation program called FIRE, which is a first year retreat experience for like first gen low income students. And that was really great because they separated us into like these families, and we would just be like on Zoom with like upperclassmen as well. And so it was really nice. I got to know a lot of the people in my little family, I guess. So that was really interesting. But I think like being on campus doesn't necessarily mean that I have the opportunity to, especially to make as many friends now with like the quarantine process. And it's been pretty tough, especially because I'm for anyone who doesn't know Harvard, like Harvard Yard is where a lot of like the freshmen like dorms are. And then like the upperclassmen dorms are situated like outside of the center of Harvard's campus. And I'm in this place called the Quad in an upperclassmen dorm. And most people don't like the Quad just because it's so far away from Harvard Yard where like all the classes would be. And so being here in like an upperclassmen dorm where there aren't many people to like that I would know, like other freshmen basically, and like to like meet and like to like, I don't know, walk with one other person, like socially distanced. It just feels like, especially at the beginning, I just felt so isolated. But like I've been like trying to do my best to like meet up on Zooms and like, even though I'd rather take a nap sometimes, like, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna do a Zoom because maybe I'll like make friends or just like strengthen some relationship. And I will say that like hanging out over Zoom, I used to think it was so bad, but it's gotten a lot better. I guess I've gotten more used to it. And just like working with like the awkward silence, if I have to say something and no one's going to say anything, I'm just going to take the initiative to say it because it has to be said. I don't know, I have to just keep the conversation going. And so that's how I've been trying to manage. It hasn't been pretty, but I've gotten through most of it.
Yeah, to kind of echo what John said, like over the summer, I got the chance to start working with Emory's debate team ahead of time. So I started doing meetings and interacting with upperclassmen and students there. So I already had some people I knew and like friends going onto campus. But I think something that surprised me in terms of social interaction, but makes sense upon more thought, is that like everyone else is also very lonely because of like Zoom and social distancing and like lack of interaction. So like John was saying, like forcing myself to be the person to like ask you or like be the first one to make an interaction with someone else, like 99% of the time they'd be more than happy to like say hi back. And I met a lot of cool people that way and making friends. So just like being active about trying to pursue like new friends or new experiences like that has been something that's very important.
My experiences have not been that good. So congrats, guys. But it has been very like strange, at least for Howard, because like we started school, like it just started like really abruptly. And for me, like I have a few big lectures and we have our calls, and then we have like group me's for the class that students started. And so all of the conversations are just about like assignments. So it's not like, hey, my name is X, Y, and Z. I like to do this. Like, do you want to be friends? Like, it's all about like work and like when quizzes and tests are due. So that's been like hard. But what I do is for like my class Zooms, like I'll like look and I'll see, because like you have your full name up. So like I'll look the person up on Instagram if I think they're cool. And then like I'll decide like to go from there. So I am trying to make friends, but also like Chris said, realizing that like everyone's in the same spot, and it's hopefully it's only gonna be for the first semester, so just for a few more months. So I'll have the rest of college to like form friend groups and figure it out. But the plus side is that like a lot of my friends from high school are like still in Michigan because they're going to school in Michigan or Detroit. And so we're like finding time to like meet up. Like hopefully I can make my way up to U of M's campus or Wayne State like a few times a month, just like sit outside and like study with them or something. But Zoom calls have been interesting. They've been good. Like the ones that are like purposefully for like talking and interacting outside of school have been good. And I just like hope to see us do more of that. So, I mean, if anybody wants to hit me up, I'm just here studying. So, yeah.
I got you, Brooke.
So personally, I've been struggling with the social component as well. I guess I'm lucky in that my school has been having a lot of forced social interactions. There's like 3 Zooms a day where it's just like, drink tea with us, eat cookies in a Zoom with us. And they're targeted at first year students, mostly because we're missing out on a lot of the first year experience. But the thing is, that whole idea of being zoomed out, right? If I have to do 2 truths and a lie one more time, like, I don't know. But on top of that, I'm in a new town. I'm in a new part of the country. I lived in Iowa from the time that I was 4 years old until the time that I was 18. So not only am I trying to figure out how to make friends virtually, but I lost the physical support of my community. And so I've really been challenging myself to put myself out there and talk to people that I normally would not put effort into talking to, because those connections would be happening organically in a classroom or at the grocery store or something. So I think it's really important right now that even though we are social distancing, we're not being socially distant.
You should put that on a shirt. I'm not sure if somebody has their hand raised, but I have a question for you guys if we don't have questions from the audience right now. Okay, this might be a little heavy, but how do you guys feel about politics right now as far as like the election? And in that, I mean generally, because right now I know I feel way different than I did growing up and seeing what the adults and over 18 had to do when they had to vote, had to look into it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to really go into studying about each politician. It's gonna be boring, but I'll just choose whichever one I feel like. Now I feel like a lot more is on the line than it should be. Like if you feel like you're having a certain point of view or you put something out on your lawn to show who you support, it doesn't just mean you think this is the best candidate. There's a whole lot waiting on that, and there's a whole lot more like people's lives that are in the balance of just saying who you think is better for the job. It's no longer just that in politics or elections about figuring out who's the best person for the job. And I would love it if there was just a little tax fraud scandal right now. That was the biggest thing, but it's not. It's about how you think if someone has the right to have certain freedoms or not. And it being that big of a thing, I just want to know what you guys think about it, because that's how I feel.
No, I agree completely. And I don't know, maybe you guys feel the same way, but it's just so overwhelming. Like it's a lot, and the news media, like the election is it's so dominant right now. But personally for me, I just think that I'm personally not necessarily satisfied with either candidate. Like I'm not enthusiastic about it. But like you said, so many people's livelihoods depend on this election. And for me, I think if you're the type of person who say like you're not going to vote at all, that's such a privilege, right? Because so many people's lives are impacted by the policies that a person can and cannot enforce. So for me, I've been encouraging people to get out and vote, especially considering like a lot of people have to do mail-in ballots. So I've been instructing my friends who are in college, hey, this is how you request an absentee ballot. This is the date you need to send it back to South Carolina. Because I believe, especially as young people, it is so imperative for us to encourage all of our friends to vote. I believe that if we can mobilize the youth vote, we can really create real progress and turn our complaints into real action. So I am someone who's a firm believer in exercising our right to vote. And I think we need to be trying to encourage as many people as possible to vote.
I mean, I understand that. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm of the mindset that like politics and everything like that is just like a facade, like an image, you know? I don't really believe in our political system as much. Like I feel like it kind of gives, they make the individual voter feel like they have more power than they actually do. I'm more in the belief that like corporations run this country from the background, but you know. So I do like see the benefit of voting, but I don't really think we have as much power as they would like us to believe.
Yeah, I like agree with the sentiments Travis, Journey, and Samuel all had. It produces like I guess anxiety in me in the fact that you have to like recognize our reality, and you have to choose like whichever one you think will benefit you more. And depending on where you are in America, like what tax bracket you're in, that's going to be a different person. You're going to like get certain ideas about what will benefit you more, and you may not even care about someone beneath you regarding the social hierarchy we've built. But it's more concerning the fact that people in lower socioeconomic backgrounds are not pursuing like avenues of knowledge. They're not like weighing opportunity costs of the people they're voting for. They're running after an image of what like someone is leading in front of them. And like soon enough that carrot is gonna rot. And that's what I'm fearful of, because not in the fact that yeah, someone can vote for Trump, someone can vote for Biden. Whichever one you prefer, I'm not gonna like voice my opinions on here. I think you can tell from the color of my skin which person I value. But it's just the fact that people are more comfortable in their ignorance. They're more comfortable in a society where they know there's someone beneath them, someone who has it worse. So they can go to bed at night saying, I know I'm secure. And I feel like we should have, at this point, built security in a more productive or conducive manner to where anyone could feel secure. Anyone wouldn't have to worry about like, oh, does this president actually want me to eat off of food stamps tonight? Like, does this president want to do this or that? Like, again, the COVID pandemic, that shouldn't be political, but it is. Global climate change shouldn't be political, but it is. And people don't value those aspects to the extent that I believe they should. And again, it's just my personal opinion in a sea of like millions. But I don't know, it's kind of disgusting almost. And I think that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from, is the fact that your vote may mean something to you. Like, it may help you go to bed easier at night, like Sam was saying, but corporations and people with bigger pocketbooks and like stronger mindsets are going to have more power in some circumstances. And we try and look at like election day as like a equalizer, and that's not the reality in America.
I kind of relate to the sentiment like going on in the conversation right now. Both what Travis was saying, but also what like Crystal and like Samuel were saying, just about like both the power and the limitations of voting in itself as a franchise. But I think like moving forward, that voting is in itself very important as we like approach this upcoming election, to make sure that voices like ours who have been systematically like disenfranchised, they need to be heard. And I think that voting is one of the ways, but I don't think it's the end all be all. I think it is the next step in our process. I think that personally, what I've been really doing a lot of research on is just holding our representatives and holding politicians accountable, like just researching just about like the corruption in our government, especially in Illinois, which where I come from. And just like knowing everything going on, and knowing that I have power within myself, and knowing how to access that power, and knowing that I, can influence others to hold other people accountable. And that's what we should be focusing on in itself. So I think that voting in itself is important, but I also recognize the limitations of voting within our system in itself, and how we do turn a blind eye to some of the problems that we have. And so I do think that like voting is important, but we also really, really need to focus on how we hold our politicians accountable.
Yeah, I do want to say I agree with John in the sense that voting kind of like gets your voice out there. Whether if you were to not vote, you would never have your opinion be heard. And I want to kind of clear up on what I was saying earlier. I feel like basically the way I would put it is like major corporations really have a big influence on the laws that are created. If you look back like through the past 100 years, every major law that has been instituted in the country benefits a major corporation in some way. So I feel like change doesn't truly come until corporations see benefit for themselves. And back to what John was saying, if like we were able to express our opinion of how we're feeling, they may look and see that like it may be beneficial to change what's going on, like change the laws or anything like that. But I don't know, I'm kind of like mixed on the issue. Like I see the value in voting, but at the same time, like I kind of don't. I don't know.
So I would say that I've been having a lot of similar sentiments to Sam in the last several months, in that I've become really disillusioned with the political process. But at the same time, I think that whenever I consider not voting, I can't divorce that act of something that seems so simple, like filling out a ballot, with the freedom fighters and people who died for someone who looks like me and moves through the world as I do to be able to cast that ballot. So I remember back when I was in junior high, I had a teacher who told me that even if you don't know who you want to vote for, even if you don't know what you are voting for, at the very end of the day, vote for the people who do not get to cast a ballot. So for me, even though I am still largely undecided on what my ballot might look like for the presidential election, I know that local politics have played a very large role in my life. I came from a small town where I would see my mayor on like a weekly basis. I would run downtown to the library or the grocery store and I'd be like, hey, Councilwoman Mazahir, like, how are you today? So being in a larger metropolitan area and not even knowing who is representing me and my family at this time has been a bit of a culture shock. But I'm going to continue to cast a ballot, even if it's only at the local level, because I recognize there is power in voting. And I feel like when we have these conversations about the electoral process, we neglect school boards, we neglect city councils, we neglect all of those smaller roles that don't have as much glamour around them, that don't have as much appeal. And we can't forget those other elected positions that have arguably even more influence on the day-to-day lives of people who look like us and move through the world as we do. So I'm not going to sit here and say that voting is invaluable, but I understand why people are falling off with the idea of voting as a vehicle for change.
I definitely agree with you, Miriam. This has been like a really overwhelming time for politics. And I just think that it's important to remember or sort of think of it in the way that like voting is only a tool, like it's a singular tool in our toolbox of justice and it should not be the whole thing. Like, yes, you can vote. Yes, in some ways you should vote, but no, that should not be the only thing that you're doing. And no, you should not base like the entire liberation of certain communities off of one ballot. Like we, especially in this day and age, like we also need to be organizing in our own communities. We need to be activists. Like we need to be in the streets. We need to be in meetings. We need to be being the solutions for our communities, because I know at the end of the day, like electoral politics is not going to liberate my community. Like electoral politics is not going to save Detroit. It is not going to save all the little Black and brown children. It's not going to save women. Like we have to sort of divest ourselves from thinking that that is the only way of being or the only way of making change. And it is an avenue, but it's not the only avenue, and it is not the most important avenue. So this has been like a very interesting time for like new voters like ourselves. Like my first time voting was August, yeah, it was in August. And that was good for me because I was really excited for who I was voting for. Like I was voting for my Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, so that was great. But like now it's like, oh shoot, like once again, like voting for like the lesser of two evils. And we all have to like remember that whether or not like we get, or from I don't know everyone's political views, but for me, whether or not we get Donald Trump out of office, like doesn't eliminate white supremacy. Like Donald Trump is not the end all be all of white supremacy. Like he is a symptom, but he's not the root cause. And our work should have started before 2016, and it will definitely have to continue after 2020. So that's the real tea on all of this. And we just have to continue truly being activists in our own communities on ways that push past what the state or what society allows us to do or allows us to be. So that's where a lot of my like thinking has been these past few months. And I'm excited, but also a little scared to see how this year ends out. But I believe in the power of people, and I guess that's where I'll end it, because all power to the people.
Powerful, very powerful. And I think we encourage you to keep these conversations going. We have Ron Brown scholars that are involved in various facets of the political process, from activism, from the legal justice side, but also those that are running for office. We have Mondeir Jones, class of 2005, who just won his primary in New York. We're the Democratic Party. And we have Jas Beasley, who's an elected official in North Carolina State House. But definitely keep these conversations going. And there will be lots of platforms on all of us to challenge and question throughout the various sides. The most important thing that we could do is actively getting involved and not setting anything out. If we don't think something is working, propose the alternative and engage. And everything that you guys have said so far gives us amazing hope that we're all in good hands, and we will continue to push for that. Meredith, we have crossed the hour, but it was such a fantastic conversation.
Absolutely. And I, on behalf of Sam and me, thank you all so much for taking an hour out of your lives and Zooming one more extra Zoom. Here it was, but we totally appreciate it. And I know that everybody who was on the call, on the Zoom, really appreciated your insights. And I do want to remind everyone who is listening, who isn't a freshman in college, these guys are 18 years old. You are wise beyond your years. You are thoughtful and well-spoken and poised. And we are so fortunate to have you in this world. So thank you all for what you're doing. And we are excited to watch you begin this journey and continue it.
Incredibly proud of you. Check out the chats. We will share everybody's email so that you're continuously connected with the community. Here is an entire community of individuals that are giving you their email address, their phone number, saying reach out to us, connect. Definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Have a great rest of your day. We will see all of you in person soon, I swear.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye, you guys.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Journey. I'll see you soon. I hope.
Nice meeting you, Miss Meredith. You have a good one.
Nice meeting you too. I like the library is very quiet today, it looks like.
Oh, it's a background.
I was just teasing. But I like it.
I imagine it is quiet.
I know. I know. And Marion, we've got a call coming up. I know we haven't gotten it scheduled yet, but we will get it scheduled.
All right, that sounds great. Just let me know what works for you. I now have Sam's number as well. So would you like me to go ahead and start that iMessage group chat?
That would be great.
All right, thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, and we'll get started planning. You're really going to come in very involved with planning the school year sessions.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. See you soon, kid. Bye.